tell yourself, I can only be a high value woman when things are perfect, when things are exactly the way I want them to be, when things are this way, that way. You're not a high value woman, you're a high value actor. Because so you want to rebrand yourself and you want to be considered a high value woman, but you just don't know where to start. Well, in this video, I'll explain to you exactly how to do that. The first step, you need to figure out in what spaces do you want to be considered valuable. I think one of the issues that messes up a lot of people is that there's like this cookie cut way of being seen as being valuable, right? And think of it like this. If somebody was to come up to you and be like, oh, do you want this 1965 Ford Chevy for $500? You might be like, I don't really, no thank you, that's fine, I already got a car. And then you could tell your car friend about it and be like, yeah, this person just offered me this 1975 Chevy. And they're like, what? Why didn't you take it? It was only $500. You know that car is worth $750,000 and all this other stuff. But the issue is they brought it to the wrong person. They brought it to an individual where that thing was not considered to be valuable. And I want you to think about yourself when becoming a valuable woman is understanding there's not a cookie cut way to be considered valuable. People will tell you things such as, oh, you have to dress this way and you have to listen to this kind of music and you have to do this and you have to do that. That is not going to make you be considered valuable if you're in places and spaces in which that thing is not valuable, right? So I say that to say when trying to be considered a high value woman, you need to think about it in a sense of a 10-year time span at least. It can be a little farther, but at least in 10 years, where do you see your life? What kind of community essentially do you see yourself in? A lot of things that I talk about on my page are focusing more so on yourself, right? What do you want to do? What do you want to? But I think when it becomes in the valuable woman category, you actually need to think about what community are you going to be a part of that is going to make you be considered valuable? Because that's the only thing that makes something valuable and not valuable is where they are. Like I said, one thing in one place is valuable and to another place is not. So think about what kind of community, what kind of people, what kind of life essentially do you want for yourself in which you are going to be seen valuable. And speaking of that, I want you to understand you can pick anything that is important to you, not necessarily important to society, right? So for example, when it comes to a high value woman, they may say things such as, oh, you have to get this degree and you have to have this job, but you also can be considered a high value woman being a multi-million-dollar business owner and also being a housewife. I recently watched this podcast interview with this author who was in his 60s or so, and he was saying how he recently went through, a lot of life-changing stuff and he was really depressed, and he was like his friend he was talking to a lot actually helped him get through it. And his friend was essentially like a housewife. She never worked a job. Mind you, they're in her 60s or 70s now. She's never worked a job before. She's been married 3 to 4 times. And, he was just telling her how he was going through all this stuff. And she was helping him through it. But one thing she said was something to the effect of, basically saying she wished she found something that she was happy for. And she was just basically saying how, she doesn't feel like she's of value. She doesn't feel like she's worth anything because she's just a housewife. She just has kids and she just had a husband, but she doesn't feel like she did anything for her in her life. And that's one thing that she wished she would have done. But what he was telling her was that you are valuable. You helped me get through this entire thing. You were the only person I was able to communicate with me the way you did. And I say that to say you don't have to necessarily have titles to be considered valuable. You just have to find places and spaces in which you can express the things that you truly love. You can express the things that you truly care about around people that find that thing to be important. Because yes, her title may have been a housewife, but she could have had a podcast. She could have had a YouTube. She could have been a public speaker. Why? Because she was great at speaking to people. She was great at understanding people. But because a lot of us had this cookie cut way of, to be considered a high value woman, you have to be this and you have to be that. And she wasn't that. She didn't consider herself to be valuable. And so with the tools that she had, with the abilities that she had, she never used them because she didn't see them of value. And I want you to think about that when becoming a valuable woman. You have to figure out first and foremost, what are things that you can actually do that will make you feel like it's fulfilling, it's good for you. And you can do that being a housewife. Now, I'm not an advocate of being like, oh, just live your life for your kids or just live your life for your husband. No, you still should do things. But maybe you're one of those people that's like, I like more domestic stuff. I really like cooking. I can cook for hours. I can bake for hours. I really like cleaning. I can turn on music and I can clean for hours, listen to a podcast. That's me. Well, what if you had a cooking podcast? Or what if you had a cooking YouTube? You know what I'm saying? Like, don't think of it in a way of you have to climb the corporate ladder and you have to do certain things, and don't think that you're not enough. The reason why you don't feel enough is because you surround yourself with individuals that don't have the same mindset as you. They don't have the same expectation out of life as you. So when you say you want to do this and you say you want to do that, they might belittle you. They might make you feel like you're not doing enough. Or the opposite, some people may make you feel like you're doing too much. So I think it's imperative to understand when you are trying to increase your value, it's really based around a lot of times the individuals you surround yourself with. They make your value. So you have to figure out what kind of people do you want to be around. And then once you figure out that, the act of increasing your value and becoming a high value woman is figuring out the things that you need to focus on. So just because, like I said, you might want to be a housewife or a stay-at-home mom or whatever the case may be, that does not mean you can just sit on your rear all day. That does not mean you don't have to do anything. There are things that you should be good at to increase your value. You get what I'm saying? There's a difference between being a woman and a high value woman. There's a difference between you get what I'm saying, being a housewife and then being a high value housewife. It means essentially you are actually good at things. That's something that you have to figure out. So when increasing your value, depending on what you want to do, if you're like, you know what, I want to be a doctor, I want to focus on this and I want to focus on that. Okay, well, there's certain things you're going to have to do outside of just going to class, outside of just doing, you get what I'm saying, what everyone else's do. You have to figure out what are areas you're going to put in more time with, what are areas you're going to put in more work with, and with essentially anything that you want to do. And increasing your value, figure out areas. Maybe there's books that you want to read. The same thing of being a housewife. Okay, I want to really be good at cooking and I really want to be good at this and be good at that. Okay, well, you need to start figuring out how to cook stuff from scratch possibly, or how to, you get what I'm saying, do things in a way that the average person can't do. That's what I think of when I think of becoming high value. The average person, I've invested so much time in learning how to do this thing and in perfecting this thing that the average person, if they wanted to wake up tomorrow and do this thing, they couldn't. And that's how you figure out if you're valuable at something or not. It's the amount of time you put in something, it's the amount of experience you put in something, and it's the difference between someone wanting to wake up and do this and you being like, yeah, you might want to wake up and do it, but you can't. You get what I'm saying? The easier something is in life, the less valuable that thing is. Which is why I've said before, McDonald's workers don't make as much as people who are lawyers, for the simple fact that people are lawyers, they put in more work, they did more stuff, so they're deemed to be more valuable. And when you do figure out those things, figure out the categories in which you want to improve your life. So whether it's health, whether it's wellness, whether it's how you dress, all those other things, and then think of the dream woman that you want to be, the high value woman that you want to be, because now you've kind of had an idea and figured out what is she, what does she look like, what does she do, what community is she part of, and what are things that those other people do that I want to start doing, right? It's really about building that sense of value in that community type thought process. And another thing I want you to do is not compare yourself to anybody else. I want you to understand if you feel like you have to compare yourself to other people or belittle other people in any way, you are not a high value woman. And if anything, you're just a hater. I say that to say, I watched this video recently on YouTube and this content creator was talking about leveling up your life or something like that. And she made a comment like, oh, I started this business by myself. No rapper baby daddy, no doing this, no doing that, all by myself. First and foremost, if you do not feel like you're in competition with somebody else, why would you even bring that person up? And this is not directly addressing this individual. I want you to think about that in life. Because a lot of times in life, it's easy for us to compare ourselves to other people. It's easy for us to put ourselves in the same lane as certain people. And I want you to understand, if you are the individuals who you compare yourself to are usually the individuals who you want a life similar like. And I think there's a double-edged sword with it. There also is an advantage to it because now you can see, okay, this is the life that I want for myself. These are the things that I want for myself because these are the people I see myself being in competition with, being in the same lane with. You get what I'm saying? I highly doubt a rapper is really going to compare themselves to a country singer and be like, oh, his lyrics say this and my lyrics say that. He do this, he do. Probably not, because they're in two different lanes. But a country singer probably will compare themselves to a different country singer. So I say that to say, first and foremost, it does teach you what kind of life you're actually going after, right? Because these are people you're comparing yourself to. But then I also want you to understand that Everyone's life is different, so don't compare yourself to anybody. And second of all, if somebody's doing something in which you want to do something, we need to get out of this whole mindset, especially as women, of being mad about handouts. Like, I think that's actually so ridiculous, and it's a new generation thing. But nowadays, this whole thing of, oh, her man did this and her man did that. Isn't he supposed to? Instead of worrying about why somebody else man did this and did that for him, why don't you ask why your man did it? It's a lot of women out here that have kids and their baby fathers have done nothing for them. It's a lot of women out here that have men and their men did nothing for them. But when someone gets a man that does these things, it's like, oh, he gave it to her, she gave it, he gave her this, he gave her that. As long as that woman is not compromising herself, as long as that woman is not putting herself in situations that she's ashamed of or she's embarrassed of, I don't see a problem with that. If anything, I think that's what's supposed to happen. But a lot of times we operate in this very, very masculine energy where it's like, I have to do everything by myself, and I'm self-made, and I'm self-this, and I'm self-that. And it's like, that's great for you. I want you to be proud of those things and your accomplishments. But at the same time, why are you mad because this person had a boost? They had a bounce. They had a whatever. And it don't mean they didn't work hard. And maybe they didn't work as hard as you. Okay. Like, I hate to be that person, but people don't really care. Like, when I go to a coffee shop, I don't ask who created this coffee shop and who did this and who did that. I just want good coffee. So I want you to think about that when trying to become a high value woman. Like, don't compare yourself to others. And the people who you compare yourself to, those are the people you see as your competition. And those are the people who life you are trying to achieve a similar one to. Now, there is a little bit of masculinity that you are going to have, I'm going to be honest. And this, honestly, in my opinion, is a distinction between a woman and a girl. A woman does things simply because they need to get done, and a girl does things because she feels like it. I don't feel like waking up. I don't feel like eating my vegetables, mommy. I don't feel like going to the gym. A woman, she knows she don't feel like it, but she gonna do it just because it has to get done. And there's a philosophy behind that, and I've talked about it before, Stoicism. Doing things simply because they're the right thing to do or they have to be done, not because you feel like doing things. And there is a certain level of discipline that you're going to have, which is a little bit of masculinity when you are trying to become a high value woman, for the simple fact that you care so much about yourself and you are so ingrained and engrounded on the woman that you are not going to allow outside things to shake you and make you do things in a way that you are going to regret tomorrow or you are going to regret next week. And I think that's very imperative to think about. Like, once you start developing this woman and you figure out how you want her to walk, how you want her to talk, what things that you want her to do, what time you want her to wake up, you are not doing things that would not abide by that woman. You get what I'm saying? And I think it's a certain level of also understanding every high value woman does not want to do the things that make her a high value woman. Honestly, she probably doesn't want to do the things. She probably doesn't want to wake up early. She probably doesn't want to go to the gym. But she knows that to be a high value woman in whatever space in this place she wants to be considered, these are things that is going to keep her there. Because I also don't want you to think just because you make a certain amount of money one time, you're a high value woman, or you get a certain degree. No, if you're a high value, that's a high value moment. A lot of times people have high value moments and they think it makes them high value women. You had one good moment, you did one good thing, baby, you're going to have to keep doing that for the rest of your life. Like, I want you to understand that just because you did one thing or you received one thing, like, congratulations, this is, me genuinely being happy for you. But at the same time, I want you to understand you're gonna have to keep doing that thing. You're gonna have to keep evolving with that thing and progressing with that thing, because eventually that thing is gonna become normal. A 2024 car in 2024 is great, but when it's 2060, a 2024 car is not really worth anything. So don't have that mindset because you did one thing or you achieved two things that now you're just a high value woman. You're not. You're going to have to keep progressing and going further. And then those things eventually are going to be considered little things. When you first achieve something, it's like, yeah, I really did this. But then eventually, the first year you make $100,000, you're proud of yourself. The next year you want to make 200,000. The next year you get what I'm saying? You want to keep evolving. And so I think that's also something to understand. You're going to have a certain level of discipline in doing these things and doing them simply because they have to get done and not because you feel like them, because that's the difference between being a girl and being a woman. And we are becoming high value women. In a certain level of femininity when becoming a high value woman is a certain level of vulnerability. You need to allow yourself to be vulnerable and allow things just to be. A lot of times we are not vulnerable because we are scared. We are scared of what people will think about us. We are scared about how things what will happen, how people will react to things. And I want you to understand that is you operating in a masculine state. That is you trying to control things. And a lot of times that's not you truly being who you are. If you tell yourself, I can only be a high value woman when things are perfect, when things are exactly the way I want them to be, when things are this way, that way. You're not a high value woman, you're a high value actor, because you can only act that way when you are not triggered. You can only act that way when you are not bothered. And that's going to be a normal part of your life. Things are going to trigger you. Things are going to bother you. Things are going to all these other things. And you need to be able to stand on the woman that you say you are. And you also need to have enough, I would say, confidence in yourself that you know no matter what kind of situation comes up, no matter what kind of whatever, you're still going to be able to be that kind of woman that you say you want to be. Because one of the worst things that can happen to you is that you have this whole high value woman aesthetic, right? And you have this whole high value, however you want to be seen in that way, but you haven't been triggered for years, right? Because you stay in places and spaces and you manipulate situations so that everyone is happy. And also, at least, you probably are a people pleaser and you do things in a way so everyone is good. And then that one time you get triggered after being on this journey for years and you blow up. And the thing wasn't even that big. Like in hindsight, looking back at it, you'd be like, it honestly wasn't even that serious, but it was like a balloon. You were letting little things happen and little things and little things and little things, but telling yourself, I'm not going to react. I'm not going to do anything because I'm a high value woman. I'm not, instead of reacting in a civil way, instead of reacting in a way where, you get what I'm saying, you're still being a high value woman, but you just have boundaries. You're still being a high value woman, but you just have respect for yourself. You get what I'm saying? You're not trying to control things to make everything perfect. And I think there's a certain level of vulnerability that you need to have where you don't care what people think about you and you don't care what people say about you. And it's not saying put all your business on Front Street, but at the same time, it's not lying to yourself and people around you. It's accepting people for who they show you and not necessarily who you want them to be. It's being vulnerable and saying and expressing how you feel. That made me sad. That made me, a lot of times we're not used to expressing ourselves. We're not taught to. Like for a lot of women, it's weird for us to say that made me sad. That made me, unhappy. Like saying things that aren't aggressive and not being masculine for a lot of women is not normal. Like it's always a thing of you always gotta cuss somebody out and you always gotta be angry to get your point across because you have this wall up. That's you being in your masculine state because you're not vulnerable enough to say how you truly feel. The root of that anger, the root of whatever that thing may be is, hey, you really hurt my feelings. And so I know it's weird for a lot of people, even myself going through the whole process, because I'm just not even used to saying that since a child. Like a lot of times from childhood, we're not really used to expressing our feelings and it being okay. But that's a certain level of vulnerability you're going to have when becoming a high value woman, because if you don't, you're just going to be a dictator and dictate everything and not really truly be able to express yourself. And then finally when you do, you're going to blow up. And then you're going to think all those years of this journey was for nothing. And going off of vulnerability, there also is self-care that is necessary. Like I said, we are still women. We still need to be in our feminine state primarily. And so you need to care for oneself because that is a very big part of being feminine. And honestly, say what you want, but I feel like most women, all women I've ever met, we feel our best when we look our best. When your hair is done, when your nails are done, when you're put together, that's when you are your best personality. That's when nobody can tell you nothing. That's when you want to go to the store for no reason just because you just want to walk around because you know you cute. Right? Don't allow yourself to only look cute on your birthday. Don't allow yourself to only feel good when it's a certain time of the year. You get what I'm saying? Practicing self-care is so imperative, and it's different from other people, for everybody. Some people self-care is having acrylic nails. Some people self-care is having clear nails, just to cutting your cuticles and a manicure. Some people self-care is having a sew-in. Some people self-care is a retwist. You don't have to abide by a certain level of a high value woman. Like I said, it could be what you want to be, but at the same time, I think when people say stuff like, oh, I don't care how I look, I don't care. Personally, I feel like that's masculine. I feel like all women, we have a certain level of, it's just something about us, right? Our appearance that it makes us feel better. And so it's imperative to care about yourself in those ways. And then a way to also do that is to understand what are you putting before yourself. Because a lot of times women say stuff like, I don't have money to get my hair done or my nails done or all these other things. First and foremost, you don't need to get the most expensive service. But at the same time, if you think about how much money you spend going out, how much money you spend on liquor, how much money you spend on random miscellaneous things that you don't need, you need to create a budget and put in their self-care. There are things that you can like, if you really start, when I really start doing the math on it, I was like, wait, I spend what, $60 to get my nails done? I spend $60 half the time at the bar. You get what I'm saying? You get 4 shots, you probably done spit like $40 something, and then you get yourself a little appetizer, a little this, a little that. When you start looking at it, every weekend you spend that money, and then you go out 2 times a week, so you done 2 times over and got your nails done. You get what I'm saying? And I think it's very imperative to have a hierarchy of what is more important, and you need to start caring about yourself. A lot of times it's hard for us to accomplish things, in my opinion, is because we don't take enough care about ourselves. So we don't see the connection, but I honestly feel like there's a connection between you not being put together and you not wanting to wake up and go to the gym. You don't feel like you're worthy enough. You need to think of your body as a temple. Make your body feel worthy. Worship your body. Take care of your body. Exfoliate your body. Nourish your body. There's no reason why you need to be going outside with chipped toenails and ashy ankles. That's all I'm saying. Like, it's no reason why. You need to keep yourself together and put yourself together. And in my opinion, I think that coincides with being a high value woman, because it shows you care about yourself so much. So when you do try to do new things and accomplish new goals, it's not as hard for you because your brain, your mind, everything's aligned to be like, but this is us. We pour into us. We care about us. But you be out here doing what you do, and then be trying to be like, oh, I got this goal to make this money, and I got this goal to lose this weight, and your body's just like, since when do you care about us? Since when you want to focus on our mental health? Since when you want to focus on our financial growth? You don't even care about... Girl, you had them same earrings in for a year and 2 months. Smell the back of your ear. All right, I'm sorry. I figured out how you say it. But some of y'all probably do need to take them earrings out, smell the back, probably stink, get a new pair. I say that to say, focus on yourself, baby. That's all I'm saying. Like, we just need to start focusing on ourselves and practicing a certain level of self-care when becoming high-value women. Boundaries. We need to have boundaries so that we are sure that no one can cause us to not go in the direction that we want to go in. Because what happens a lot of times is too, you have goals for yourself and you're like, I want to become this woman and I want to do these things, but it's so easy for people to make you do things that don't align with that person. So it's so easy for you to tell yourself you want to wake up at a certain time every single day, but then your friends ask you, hey, you want to go get drinks Tuesday night, and you getting drinks and then you find yourself waking up with a hangover and now you can't wake up. You don't have a boundary around that thing. You need to have boundaries and saying, hey, you know what, I'm trying to wake up earlier. I can't even do that. Hey, you know what, I know you know, you got that birthday dinner and then you want to go to the club after. I'll definitely go to the birthday dinner, but you know what, I kind of leaving the club scene. I'm trying to do this and do that, so I can't go to the club after, but I'll go to your birthday, right? You need to have boundaries for yourself and stop making yourself feel bad about other people for living their life. They're going to live their life. They're going to do what they want to do, and you don't want to become that person that look back at life and be like, dang, I wish I would have never did that. Everybody dictated everything that I did. Everybody made me do this and do that, and look at them. They're happy, and they got the kids, and they got the life that they want. But you out here, you ain't find a man you want. You know why? Because your friends wanted to go to the club every single weekend, and you went with them when you knew you wasn't going to find a man in the club. You knew the high-value woman version of yourself wasn't going to find a man there. But now you up in age, and you trying to see all the men now. And now you trying to get into places and spaces where you should have been and you could have been, but you weren't because you didn't have that boundary, right? You need to figure out the life that you want for yourself, figure out the habits that you're going to have to install, and then create boundaries around those habits. There's no reason why I shouldn't go to sleep at this time. There's no reason why I should be eating this kind of food. There's no reason why I should create a boundary around it. Create a protection circle around it. There's nothing that's coming inside this thing. There's nothing that can penetrate this thing. Because you don't have a boundary. You don't have a protection for it. So it's so easy for people to be like, ooh, do this, ooh, do that, and pushing you and pushing you and pushing you. And that shows that you're not a high value woman because you don't, like I said, it goes back into the caring. You don't care about yourself to put yourself before other people. You don't care about yourself enough in general. Because if you did care about yourself, you wouldn't allow that to happen. If you did care about yourself, you wouldn't allow those things to constantly go on. So I think boundaries are something that are very imperative to not only stick with your goal, but to prove to yourself, I am a high value woman. I care about myself, and I am truly going to do what's going to make me happy, instead of doing things that make other people happy. So thank you guys so much for watching my video. I hope you guys are able to get something out of it. I hope that it was enjoyable for you. And don't forget to check back for new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.